Episode 10, Light and Darkness. Audrey stood on the threshold of the opened door leading to the backyard. She felt the cool night breeze on her face. She gazed into the dense greenery of the garden and tried to decide whether to take a step forward or backward. I can't go to my apartment right now. There will be nothing possessed, dangerous, strange, or frightening. There will be no innuendos, sarcastic comments, doubts, or forbidden desires. There will be no anything. A bird chirped loudly in the garden, sounding almost desperate. It hopped onto a bare branch and studied Audrey intently. Does it want something from me? The visitor chirped again. It turned its tiny head as if searching for someone, but the garden only responded with silence. Where's your flock? Why are you here alone? The bird tilted its head as if asking her the same thing. I used to have a flock, but even here I don't feel as lonely as I did there. Her decision came naturally. Audrey indulged a childish, unfulfilled dream of finding a home and stepped back into the house. A wolf came out of the bushes, scaring away the bird that had saddened her. He sat a little further away from the door. If I tell him to bring back Harry, the runaway, will he do it? Somehow confident that he would, Audrey bit her lip. I always wanted a cat, but I was afraid I wouldn't have time to take care of it. And now I have a pet, and I don't even know what to expect from him. The parallel between the wolf and the residents in the house drew itself. Nervous nausea rose in her throat. Bruno came closer, sat down, and waited for affection. He acts like a house dog, but he's not a cat or a dog, and he would tear me apart like Otto if I do something wrong. As if sensing her mood, the wolf flattened his ears. Sorry, Bruno. Audrey watched the hunched beast leave, slumped her own shoulders guiltily. Everything that's happening here is very difficult for me. With her trying to drag me into the borders on the absurd. Audrey fought the immature, flighty desire to just go to her bedroom. She peeked into Mikhail's office. Inside the room, the meetings of the Astrea employees continued without her or the rescued man. The lively conversation stopped. Audrey felt surprised looks on her. From the doorway, she briefly and simply explained the reason for her intrusion. Harry left. Harry? The confusion on Cassiel's face made a wave of irritation wash over her. Audrey, where did he go? I don't know. Probably to his competition. Your honest speech didn't convince him. Maybe you should have come up with something more interesting. Like offering him a job as my bodyguard, or pretending that you were really happy to have him here. The thought that slipped out filled the room with a ringing silence. Audrey looked at Mikhail expectantly, but received no answer to her barb. Cassiel trying to find him. I don't think he went far. And? You don't have to go easy on him this time. The cold detachment with which Mikhail gave the order made Audrey unconsciously back away. Cassiel ignored the evaluator's reaction. He rushed past, hastening to carry out his orders. I'll try to help. Good. Let me know if you learn anything. Audrey didn't understand why everyone was just dispersing. She glared angrily at Raphael as he left. But he, like Mikhail, obviously felt no shame. As he left, he threw her an offer that she immediately wanted to refuse. Come see me later, please. I want to talk to you. Did they even hear me? I'll think about it. She hadn't planned on having this conversation, but she didn't want to offend him. He's always been kind to me. He's glad that you trust him. Once again, once alone with Mikhail, Audrey crossed her arms over her chest. She tried to put a stern expression on her face. Why do you need Harry? Why didn't you just hand him over to Fell? He would have stayed at the station until morning and then gone out of town to his competition. The police could have escorted him and put him on a plane. He interrupted her flowing stream of words with a single sentence. We want to save him. Saving him from his attacker is certainly noble, but holding him by force? Would anyone in their right mind voluntarily lock themselves in a prison? I see. Do you feel like you're in a prison? He offended. His offended expression managed to appeal to her conscience. No one here has actually locked me in a room. Try to understand him. After all, no matter what Harry said, no one in this house has done anything bad to me. She sighed and lowered her arms. I'm confused and tired. And Harry added to my doubts. Whatever he said, we mean no harm to you or him. I understand, I think. And as for your comment, there's no need to accuse us of special treatment. Didn't you tell the others that I was supposed to stay? I did. But I didn't say we were supposed to charm you. I didn't think anyone and everyone will admit to it, but I assure you that your presence here is welcome. You've breathed life into this house, Audrey. For many years, it has been a bastion of melancholy and oppressive anticipation. Anticipation of what? Of disaster. But the more we resist the beast, the better our chances. That's why it's so important that we protect you and Harry. Do you believe that evil, the worship, is real? It is real. And will not stop at the deaths of a few people. But how do you know? Our organization was created to protect people from threats that no police force can guard against. He is the greatest threat to humanity. Our main goal is to oppose him. His vague explanations were of little comfort. He says I'm free, but immediately adds that freedom is dangerous to me. He's willing to answer all my questions, but his answers only create more mystery. I'm so tired of this. So, what is my role in this agency? Is my help just a circus act? He stepped a little closer to her. He almost allowed himself to an unexpected liberty. His hand reached for hers, but reason overcame emotion and stopped short. Did he want to touch me? I'm sorry that my decision led us to such an unpleasant conversation. His deliberate restraint was starting to get on her nerves. She wanted to finally see his true feelings. If you're sorry, then give me a direct answer. We really needed an employee with strong empathy, someone capable of understanding other people, and I would like you to continue your work. Audrey could no longer fight the truth or force it out of him, so she gave up. Fine, we'll call it a happy accident. He smiled sadly and hurried to end the delicate topic of discussion. I don't believe it's a coincidence, but if it really brought us together, then I'm grateful for it. Outside the garden, the leaves rustled. He looked at them thoughtfully. He said distantly, Will you promise me that I won't have to worry about you, at least for tonight? I'm not going anywhere. I hope that your dreams will be pleasant, despite everything. I hope so too. She nodded and then trudged to her room. Her habit of listening to her feelings didn't work this time. For some reason, her emotions changed at a rapid pace in this house. Or have I become so suggestible? As soon as Mikhail said that everything was fine, her mind instead loosened its grip and gave way to doubt. And these people are so masterful at giving others everything they need. They were looking for an empathy to join their team. Before reaching her door, Audrey paused outside Raphael's bedroom. Should I go in? Audrey wanted to knock, but the door suddenly opened on its own. Come in, please. Was he waiting for me behind the door? Maybe he just heard you. As she entered the room, she looked around awkwardly. The box remained on the chair, reminding her of the real danger she had narrowly avoided. My photo would have already been lying with the other evidence. Audrey was reluctant to even approach the gruesome box, where dozens of corpses had been captured on film and buried. She sat down on the edge of the bed. So what did you want to talk about? He took a seat on the dresser and intertwined his long fingers. I can see that you're struggling. The fact that you didn't tell us about Harry right away only confirms my suspicions. And I'm not blaming you, no. I want you to trust us and be on our side. It's not that simple. That's why I'm asking you to share your doubts and questions with me. I don't want you to search for answers on your own. You may endanger yourself and others. She immediately understood the reference to her escape from the room, but she needed to clarify who the others were. Others? Do you mean Harry? He nodded cautiously, still he voiced his thoughts directly. I'm afraid if Cassiel doesn't find him, the cult followers will. The threat seemed a bit far-fetched to Audrey. But that woman is at the station right now. That woman is one of many, and if the hunt is on, his chances are slim. His chances of escape? Of survival. The confidence which, with Raphael said this, made the blood drain from her face. I'm sorry, but it's true. So what am I supposed to ask so I can calm down Raphael? How did you know who the next victim would be? Are you sure you're going to give me an honest answer? He stood up and took a cautious step towards her. I just knew. Sometimes I feel something is going to happen, and it does. Are you clairvoyant or something? Yeah, good luck locking down what he has. Not exactly. My abilities are limited to the cult's influence. What kind of nonsense is this? So you can only see the future if it's related to the beast? The future is cloudy, changeable. Our decisions alter this. Oh, I believe you now. You answer just as evasively as all clairvoyants. Raphael smiled, sadly, came even closer. Now, only one step separated them. I'm glad you find it amusing. Amusing. I'm just shocked that you can say it so seriously. A belated thought suddenly struck her. Maybe Raphael isn't sick. Maybe he's just predicted his death. There's a chance that he isn't dying at all. The agony of hope seized her so quickly that it was hard to breathe. But how do I ask him about it? Be frank. Audrey searched for the right words. She looked into his green eyes and changed her mind about asking her question. She no longer wanted to talk about death or finding what Raphael was dying of. She wanted to talk about life, believe that there was a plenty of it for everyone. Raphael, would you like me to read your fortune? She's become Miss Cleo now. He hadn't expected this suggestion from her. At first he was taken aback, but then his face lit up with a skeptical smile. I don't think you can. Oh, if you can, then so can I. That's the first time we've really seen him smile. Do you need any tools, cards, bones? Do you need them? No. Then I do without them too. Give me your hand. He crouched down so that he was level with her. He obediently held out his hand to her. Try not to look into my own future. It's more important to look at the present. Don't worry, I'll look into it for you. She held his hand in one of hers and traced the lifeline with her thumb. What do you see? I see someone very nosy. Someone who often invades your personal space. Audrey narrowed her eyes mysteriously and lowered her voice. I think it's a man, and his name starts with a D. Really? I thought you were talking about yourself. I said often, not once. But we're talking about the future. Audrey suppressed a smile and traced the line a little further. I see a huge hall, everyone is jumping to their feet, shouting your name, Raphael, Raphael. You're hinting at my violin playing. People don't usually shout at those kinds of concerts. They're more reserved. Audrey didn't admit defeat. She clicked her tongue softly and raised an eyebrow. Is it just me, or are you being skeptical? God forbid, Audrey. I believe you. It's hard to tell who was trying to distract whom from heavy thoughts, but in the end they both felt better. And whatever the future holds, it's not worth sacrificing the present for. Don't shut yourself off. There are people around you who are always ready to support you. You know that, right? He looked into her eyes and replied with surprising seriousness. I know. Thank you for looking behind the veil of mystery for me. You're welcome. Anything for you. You're welcome. He was glad to be distracted from bitter thoughts. He really appreciates you. Audrey didn't want to ruin the friendly moment, so she quickly ended the conversation on that note. She excused herself, citing fatigue, and headed for the door. He didn't try to stop her. Audrey returned to her room. She immediately approached the window, hoping to see Harry and Cassiel. With each passing second, the chances of Harry actually coming back diminished. Only waited a few minutes. He could have gotten an Astrea statue in that time. Besides, someone who doesn't know the place can easily get lost in the garden, unlike Cassiel. Unless... the quiet, insidious voice from the garden echoed in her mind. What are you doing here, you sly fox? Unless someone helped Harry get out of the garden faster. Audrey found herself unable to look at the greenery any longer. She stepped away from the window and lay down on her bed. She pulled the blanket over her head. Audrey could not seek comfort in the God she had turned away from many years ago, but she whispered a prayer, just in case. Please let Cassiel tell me when I wake up that Harry went to his competition, then that he's all right. She was awakened early in the morning by persistent messages. Audrey almost dropped her ill-fated phone in her grogginess. She brought the screen to her sleepy eyes and squinted. It's Ruth. I hope you remember what day today is. Sunday. And you promised to meet me. Yes, Ruth, of course I remember. I'll send you the address I moved to. I'm glad you finally agreed. Audrey didn't share her friend's joy, but her sense of duty was stronger. I'll suffer for an hour, but Ruth will be happy. She'll leave me alone for at least 6 months. Audrey practically crawled out of bed before waddling into the shower. She put on the first outfit she could grab. Just don't have any assignments today, so I can wear something less formal. Basic, silk, cozy, leather, red accent. Get everything. I must decide now. Red accents it is. The leather one looked weird. It was like you were meeting a guy. I'm serious. One button undone and it comes all undone. Now for my hair. Do we have to? Okay, I'm not gonna lie, I kinda like that one. Green highlights at the tips, you know, not bad. I might choose it. Cute buns, those are cute. Sure, why not? We'll do the bob. I still miss the OG hair, but you know, I can always go back to it. Audrey was dreaming of a hearty breakfast, a cup of coffee when she opened the door, but it was bumped into David as he walked towards her room. Good morning. He paused in the doorway, then winked at her mysteriously and glanced over her outfit. You look beautiful. It's like you knew where I wanted to take you. Back to the club. Even better, to court. Let's restore your good name. Her stomach immediately twisted with excitement. She suddenly lost her appetite for breakfast. You better not lose your appetite for that coffee. When do I need to be there? Now. David clearly didn't share her anxiety. He smiled radiantly. Wait, isn't today Sunday? How is court in session? Just don't tell me you're worried about the process. You'll offend me deeply with a lack of confidence in me. Even court-appointed lawyer wouldn't lose such an easy case. Audrey disagreed, but she didn't argue. I need to pull myself together. How should I act? What should I say? Count on me, Audrey. Remember, a court is a place where only lawyers should speak. You just need to answer questions with one word. Yes or no. Got it? Yes. Good girl. Get your thoughts together, come downstairs, I'll be waiting for you in the car. Without entering the room, David closed the door and disappeared. Audrey tried to calm her heart. This is not how I imagined this day would go. Audrey only attended hearings a few times. The first time she found herself on the witness stand was when a colleague was involved. A psychiatrist with 20 years of experience signed a discharge papers for a young man, declaring him of sound mind. After leaving the hospital, the first thing the young man did was go to his ex's house and beat her to death with a kitchen hammer. They found the former patient naked, bloody on the roof of a nearby house, brandishing a murder weapon and threatening to kill anyone who dared approach him. It took 3 large police officers and a small tranquilizer syringe to subdue him. When her colleague saw the patient on the news the next morning, he immediately went to Goodlam to collect his things. At the time, I felt like I would never let something like that happen. And now I'm sitting where the murderer once sat, shooting sideways glances at the jury. And these people that I'm seeing for the first time and probably last time must decide my fate. During the prosecutor's emotional speech, Audrey alternated between sweating and shivering. The nervous, balding man appealed to the jury's sympathy, arguing that the psychiatrist's negligence had killed not only Arthur, but the entire Claudius family. Is he accusing me of triple homicide? The terrible accusations did not bother David in the least. When his turn came, he jumped up and addressed the jury. My client is charged with truly serious crime of driving someone to unaliving. My opponent has vividly described how terrible it was, and I agree with every word. But does that apply to my client? Without addressing anyone in particular, David paused, allowing everyone to ponder the question. First, in order to prove her guilt, you must prove the existence of a systematic attempts to drive Arthur to it. But what do we know? The patient had already attempted it unsuccessfully before coming to Goodlam. So, to carry out her plan, as the prosecutor puts it, my client would simply have to prescribe Arthur the wrong dosage of antidepressants, or not prescribe them at all. Instead, Audrey pulled him out of a noose. Which brings me to my second point. Her efforts are evident in the patient's medical records. There was a positive progress, all confirmed by several doctors at the hospital. This is evidence of my client's diligent work. She helped Arthur overcome clinical depression prior to the incident. Neither the patient nor his parents complained about his condition. They were completely satisfied. Miss Claudius was a tough woman. Like any mother, she was willing to do anything for her child, but would she have ignored poor treatment? Hardly. The wrinkles on the jurors' foreheads gradually smoothed. One last thing. Everyone here has forgotten the main question. Was there even an attempt? What exactly are we accusing my client of? As you know, the patient attacked her. Fragile woman in cold blood. But she managed to fight back. Are there people in this room who would accuse her of a crime of wanting to live? She fought and won, scaring Arthur away. And then, when Arthur went for the door, he ran around the office crying. He was confused. Things hadn't gone according to plan. The victim escaped and was screaming for help. And what does Arthur do? Surrender? Repent? No. He runs away like a coward. Audrey is already holding the doorknob. She's almost in the hallway, and there are paramedics. The fear of being caught drives Arthur to freedom. To the window. 3rd floor, not that high. He may have believed that the trees would break his fall and allow him to escape in time. And he would have had the chance if he hadn't hit his head on the asphalt. The way David presented the information seemed so convincing that Audrey herself began to wonder why she was sitting in the defendant's seat. If I knew what to say, I could defend myself in court. Before you make any decision, think carefully about who the real victim is here, the failed murderer or the doctor who already saved Arthur's life once. Good attorneys are hard to find nowadays, I'm serious. David sat back down and winked at her subtlety. You did great, Audrey. You held up really well. He really helped me. The recess was short, predictable. The jury sided with David and dismissed the charges against Audrey. Now there's no reason to revoke my license. As if reading your mind, David remarked, "Your license is in your pocket. You're just one letter away from getting it back, and I'm ready to write that letter for you today. Oh, and I suggest you get insurance from the Medical Protection Society. That way, next time it won't go to court at all." I don't even know how to thank him. Unsure how to respond, Audrey gently touched David's hand. During his speech, he was so serious and composed. I never would have expected this from the same funny guy I know. David glanced down and grinned contentedly. Was it scary? Maybe, at first. But as soon as you took control, I felt calm. Unable to contain himself, David intertwined their fingers. He stepped a bit closer to make sure no one else in the room could hear. A little more, and everyone will think I wasn't just defending a client. As if he really wanted to spread these rumors, David took another step. He looks at me so tenderly. Only a fool wouldn't notice that. I wouldn't want to tarnish your impeccable reputation. Do you have any ideas on how to tarnish it? I do, but I'm not going to act on them. He feigned a frown and drawled, "Oh, such cruel words. It's not like we lost, did we?" She desperately wanted to support his playful mood, but even more than that, she wanted to express her gratitude. He really helped me and asked for nothing in return. He's just holding my hand and turning everything into a joke. Thank you, David. Sincerely. What you did means a lot to me. It means too much to me to accidentally ruin your career with some foolishness. She pulled back and tried to free herself, but David stepped forward again. Let them think what they want, Audrey. I don't expect any special thanks from you, just don't want you to feel like you can't do what you want. And when you want to. Audrey bit her lip and thought for a moment. Well, alright. Since you're so bold. She stood on her tiptoes and moved closer to David. He was intrigued by her closeness. She left a kiss on his stubbled cheek. It was tender, perhaps too long, for a simple thank you. I hope this doesn't ruin your reputation. She pulled away and met his playful gaze. That's the kind of reward I like. He ignored the people's narrowed eyes around him. Spoke a little louder. Perhaps you have other legal problems, overdue parking fines, for instance? I'm willing to settle any trivial matter. I have no doubt. David is ready to get you out of any trouble. Then I suggest we all discuss all your crimes at home, in front of the fireplace. I'm afraid our evening will end quickly. I don't have many crimes. Don't worry, my lovely witch. If you want, I'll find something to keep you busy until dawn. I just need to remember to lock the door more securely so that none of our colleagues interrupt us. For some reason, the discussion or suggestion of this discussion made her feel hot. I wonder if he really won't hesitate to lock himself in the sitting room with me. Audrey looked at the clock and realized she didn't have much time left. Damn, I'm supposed to meet Ruth. David, honestly, this hearing came as a surprise to me. I have to run. You're slipping away, once again. At least let me know who dared to steal away our victorious evening. My friend Ruth. I promised to meet her at the church. No one's ever run away from me to a church before. What would you do there? Nothing. I'm going for my friend's sake. There's a strange friend you got there. Couldn't she find a better place to meet? Well, not everyone drags their friends to noisy clubs. At least it's a quiet in a church. You can have a heart-to-heart there. Yeah, I don't trust this. Of course, there's really no one there to overhear your secrets. You don't believe in God at all? I do. I just don't think he's there. Go ahead and talk all you want. Playful tone changed rather abruptly to a serious one. Do you know her well, right? Yeah, she's an old friend of mine. I'm definitely safe with her. Her assurances clearly didn't convince him very much, but he sighed and gave in. Let me at least call you a taxi. I'll let you do that. Let's go. After saying goodbye to David, Audrey gave the taxi driver an unfamiliar address. See, that's a good thing, because in a way they can track the taxi. He typed in the GPS, shifted in his seat, making himself comfortable. They had a little over an hour to go. Oh, Ruth, where have you gone this time? 10 minutes into the monotonous drive, Audrey felt herself drifting off to sleep. The landscape outside the car window remained unchanged. The narrow road led them further away from the bustling city. Audrey awoke abruptly as the car screeched to a long halt. Audrey stepped out of the car and looked around. She was in a dense forest with barely visible overgrown path. It didn't inspire confidence. A huge fallen tree blocked the driver's path, adding to the strangeness. What kind of wilderness is this? The tall grass was untouched by tires. It swayed rhythmically, creating whispering doubts. Maybe I got the address wrong? The driver jabbed his finger at the GPS. He explained that the village was about a half-mile away, but he couldn't go any further for obvious reasons. So, just to be sure, Audrey checked the map on her phone. There was no mistake. The driver shrugged, suggested they turn back, but she hesitantly declined. As she watched the car drive away, she clutched the phone in her hand. If Ruth doesn't show up here right now, I'd better call the taxi and ask him to turn around. But a familiar redhead appeared from behind the trees. Audrey breathed a sigh of relief and put her phone away. Audrey, darling. Ruth. The woman quickened their pace and jumped into each other's arms, ignoring the obstacle that separated them. It's been so long since I've seen you, Audrey. Ruth held her friend by the shoulders and stepped back to gaze at her radiant face. You look wonderful. Did you get here all right? Just fine. And you're getting further and further away from the city, aren't you? I don't like all that noise, you know. And this is a very small, quiet village. If you go to the central square, you can see all the buildings. Sounds... I mean, one, it's a forest. Two, it's a small, quiet town. I've lived in both, and I dislike noisy big cities. It's keyword noisy big city. Wonderful. I guess you really found what you were dreaming of, huh? Yes. This really is the place, Audrey. I feel good here. I'm glad you agreed to come. Ruth pulled away from her friend and glanced down unhappily. We still haven't moved this tree. There was a strong hurricane last week, and it knocked down a lot of them. It's all right. I'll climb over it. Audrey grabbed a protruding branch and jerked her hand away in disgust. The rotten bark of the tree stuck to her palm, revealing an unpleasant sight, a damp, exposed trunk crawling with insects. Did it rot that much in a week? Feels like it's been lying here for at least a year. Ruth noticed Audrey's confusion and held out her hand. Grab on. Audrey slid on the slippery log. She managed to overcome the obstacle and jump down to the ground. Why not just walk around it? She tried to brush the dirt off her clothes, but only smeared it more. Great. Let's go. I'll find you something to change into. No, my outfit's just fine, thank you. Audrey caught up with her friend. She tried to see where the path led, but saw nothing. How far is it to the village? Not far. About half a mile. The visible trail made it look like no tires had ever touched it. It was hard to even call it trodden. The infrastructure here isn't that great, is it? Not many people leave the village. We have everything we need here. A familiar phrase made the forest seem a little darker. As if she didn't spend enough of her childhood in a world limited by strict rules. Now she's locking herself up in something similar again. It's different here. Audrey gave Ruth a wry smile, pretending she wasn't thinking about the very thing at all. The fresh air, the quiet, I like it. After walking in silence for a while, Audrey couldn't stand it anymore. They hadn't seen each other for so long that the silence felt like something wrong. Sorry for disappearing after the incident. I needed some time alone. You don't have to apologize. I feel bad that I pushed you so hard that you had to change your address. Ruth, you know I changed it because of the reporters, not because of you. Ruth pressed her lips together and frowned. You have told me that new one, but I understand the important thing is we finally meet up. The rest doesn't matter anymore. Audrey didn't want to justify her reclusiveness, so she just changed the subject. Thanks for asking Malik to help me. He's a wonderful man, and he would never refuse to help me. Audrey could barely contain the curiosity that threatened to burst out of her. She tried to approach the subject carefully. I almost forgot that he taught at our uni. Ruth smiled sadly and changed the subject. Did he get your license back? Someone else returned it to me. Did he refuse to help you? Surprised, Ruth raised her eyebrows and slowed her pace. He helped me with something else, and he would have gotten my license back, I'm sure. I see. Sometimes I feel like the only way to see him more is to get in trouble more. The bitterness in her voice said more than she intended. Ruth. I'm kidding, of course. She turned away and walked a little faster. Poor thing. I should talk about something else. I'm gonna go fishing today. It's been a while since we've seen each other. You must have lots of news. There's a reason I went to a place where nothing happens. Aren't you bored? I'm peaceful. If I wanted fun, I'd get a job at the Astrea detective agency. Audrey smiled crookedly, appreciating the joke. Sometimes it's even too much fun. We can... Okay, let's go with the village. So, tell me about this place. It's a pretty old village. There's not much to tell. I can tell you a local legend. Go ahead. They say that in the 17th century, all its inhabitants disappeared and the village was abandoned for a long time. It was not until close to the 20th century that it was repopulated. Audrey's jaw dropped in surprise. She could barely find words. Not much to tell, you say? It's just a legend, Audrey. I think there was a bad harvest here and people had to leave. Nothing edible grows here now. You can't look at the vegetable gardens without crying. What do you eat then, if you don't leave the village much? We have very deep cellars and lots of supplies. I don't like you, I'm serious. I'm getting creepy vibes off this chick. Now, do you go to the local church? Yes. We'll go to the service together this evening. Will it be interesting? You'll like it. Maybe you'll even want to stay here with me forever. That's highly unlikely. Ruth gently took her by the arm and smiled. Never say never, Audrey. Okay. The woman continued walking in silence until they reached the main square. Resident Evil and Silent Hill say hi. The village wasn't as tiny as Ruth had described. The windows of the houses in the square faced them, creating the impression that they were on a stage. How is it that after our childhood, Ruth found the strength to settle in such a place? This is where the festivals are usually held. Vendors sell things and people walk around. Do you know all the residents here? No, of course not. But there aren't many of them. 1,052 people. That's a lot of people, ma'am. Audrey's smile was strange. She tried to pretend to enjoy the whole thing. Ruth has always been like this. No surprise that this place attracted her. A young man approached them. He smiled brightly and then addressed Ruth. Hey, Sunshine, I see your friend has finally found her way to us. Sunshine? The man pecked Ruth on the cheek and then held out his hand. I'm Franz. Nice to meet you. Audrey shook his hand and looked around. A huge wooden church towered like a giant against the backdrop of the tiny houses. Some passerbyers cast curious glances at the dais. Most of them were busy with their daily tasks and simply walked by. Come, I'll help you settle in. On the way to the hotel, Franz asked questions, but didn't really listen to the answers. As soon as Audrey fell silent, he'd ask the next question, but wouldn't follow up with any of the topic. Like a cardboard cutout of friendliness. Have you seen the man's eyes? Her temporary shelter was a small 3-story hotel that had seen better days. The inside smelled of old age. Jesus. What kind of old age? It was an odor that no amount of chemicals could remove. The room itself could pass for a historical relic, were it not for the small TV set tucked modestly in a corner. Swear if that cross flips. Looks like this place hasn't been renovated in decades. Make yourself at home, Audrey. Call the receptionist if you need anything. In the meantime, I'll prepare for the evening service. Once left alone with a friend, Audrey gave in to her anxious, curious desire to ask questions. Prepare? Is he a pastor? Yes, the best in his field. Audrey chose her words carefully. She didn't want to accidentally offend her old friend. But what does that entail? The ability to lead others by his example? The ability to lead others to God, Audrey. Ruth straightened out a freshly washed sheet. She approached the window, adjusted the already perfectly ironed curtain. Do you really expect me to stay here? I hope you'll stay the night, then we'll see what happens. Audrey hadn't planned to spend the night here, but when she remembered the fallen tree, she realized that she wouldn't be able to leave this place late in the evening. Looks like I'll really have to stay overnight. Ruth rummaged through the closet, pulled out a simple dress. She placed it on the bed. There's a bathroom behind this door. You can freshen up, change, and relax. I'll help the others and come back for you later, all right? All right, Ruth. Don't get bored, dear. I'll be back soon. Ruth quietly closed the door behind her. She walked silently across the creaky parquet floor on the hallway. Audrey sat on the bed and sighed heavily. Her childish desire to be home right now irritated her with its impracticality. I have refused to come here so many times. What was stopping me from refusing again? Audrey nudged the faded carpet grimly with the toe of her shoes. She thought of Astrea. I'd rather sit in the garden and argue with Cassio than go through all this. The thought of the man reminded her that it wouldn't hurt to let someone know that she'd been sleeping elsewhere tonight. Who should I call? I mean, I feel like... Also, why is Mikhail not on that list? But... I'll call David. It's important to you that David doesn't work. Audrey dialed the right number and listened to the rough buzz and crackle. I see. After struggling a bit more, the connection cut off on its own. I sent a text. Maybe it'll get through. I'm not staying in Astrea tonight. I'm fine. The place is remote and the connection is bad. Audrey thought for a moment. She decided to send the address as well, just in case. After placing the phone on the bedside table, Audrey stood up. She pulled out the dress Ruth had left behind and grimaced. David would faint if he saw me in this. Audrey clutched the fabric. She prudently decided to latch the door. It wouldn't hurt to wash the dirt off. She spent a good half an hour relaxing in a surprisingly cozy and spacious bathroom before returning to the bedroom. I'm going to call this a terribly boring vacation. Oh, we didn't even get to choose the outfit. It's pretty, though. I mean, Audrey wasn't sure how to occupy herself. She laid down in the bed and turned on the television. The cable here didn't work much either. And the cell phone service. The video feed was streaky and kept cutting out. Charming. Quick, rabbit ears. Audrey grew annoyed as she flipped through the channels before finally settling on one with relatively clear picture. She ended up watching a news program. Well, let's hear about what's happening in the world. The image of the news anchor kept freezing. The ends of their sentences were cut short by choppy connection. Still, they managed to get the main point across every now and then. Behind the heavy curtain, the first full dull drops of rain began to tap on the window pane. If the rain doesn't last too long, no one will come to this remote place in bad weather. Audrey worried that she would be stuck here for more than one night. She approached the window and pulled the thick fabric aside. A bright flash of light struck her eyes as if in greeting. The interference lessened, either due to the lightning or something else. The audio became clear. The voice of the news anchor became louder and more confident. It remains unknown exactly where he is hiding. Audrey grabbed the remote and pointed at the television. The image drifted across the screen in waves. She couldn't bring herself to press the button. Painfully familiar eyes peered from the streaks of static and then disappeared. Oh, it's him. Anyone with information about the whereabouts of Philip Moore is urged to contact the police. Still frozen, with her arm outstretched, Audrey stared unblinkingly ahead. Now only one image remained in front of her eyes. Didn't Mommy tell you to hide? Moore is on the loose. I need to warn my colleagues. Audrey rushed to the bedside table and froze again. Her phone wasn't there. Didn't I put it there? Audrey spun around in confusion. She caught a glimpse of the door. The chain she distinctly remembered inserting into the latch was dangling and unlocked. She pulled the handle to get out, but she couldn't open the door. What the hell's going on? I'm gonna calm down. Audrey went to stand by the window. She tried to calm down and think rationally. There must be some mistake. Maybe someone really broke into the room, robbed me, and locked me in to get a head start. Ruth will be here soon, and her friend can check the hotel cameras to see who was here. Bro, you think they have cameras here? These people are like Amish. I need to get out of here. I can't stay here forever. And yes, I know that people don't have televisions. Don't at me. I know you're going to rip me a new one in the comments for that comment. She didn't have to stay in the room for long before the door opened for her. Ruth looked cautiously at her friend and stepped inside. What's going on? Ruth hastily closed the door behind her and leaned her back against it. You're ready. Great. Is this some kind of joke? Someone locked me in and my phone is missing. I'm not in the mood to attend service. I've got your phone. Calm down. Her friend's words didn't calm her. Why did you take it? To see what you know. It turns out you're not as naive as Franz said. You're hunting the beast yourself. It's stupid, but it deserves respect. Excuse me? I'm talking about the mark of the beast in your phone. You're really connected to him. It's amazing. Audrey took an involuntary step back as a chill of realization ran down her spine. Ruth, who are you praying to here? Prayers. Not a single one of my prayers was answered by God, and yet I spent my entire childhood kneeling before him. No, we do not pray here, we praise. But for what? She received no answer to her question. Ruth advanced on her predatorily, like a cat ready to pounce. After everything you've done to us, Audrey, after everything we've been through, don't you want to start with a clean slate? Audrey really wanted to grab her friend and give her a good shake, but right now it was more important to get out of the room. Ruth, this isn't a clean slate. You're going to cover it with blood and writhe over it. Your new world will be built on bones and ashes. So be it. It's the way things are built, Audrey. There are always sacrifices to be made. By me? I never agreed to this, Ruth. If you want to stick your neck through a noose, go ahead. Audrey, you don't understand. It's all preordained. You were born sinful. You must present your sin as a gift to our new God. Oh, this is just nonsense. I have to stop this and run while she's the only one here. Wasn't she looking at her friend, and I'm sure he's outside the door? Before Franz shows up. What should I do? Persuade her. Well, persuade's not gonna work, fam. I have 28 out of 36. That jumped massively in one chapter. You know, then you're gonna have a no panic. Don't delay the inevitable, Audrey. Either you go willingly, or you'll be dragged by force. Choose. I lost points. No, it's the other one. 16. Oh boy, so you either have to go one way or another with this one. No way, I'm not giving up just like that. Yeah, no, I just wanted to check. Try to slip away from her. Audrey complied, pretending to accept her fate. What's going to happen to me? You're going to go down in history. Let's go. Audrey walked obediently behind Ruth. She desperately thought of ways to escape. I could try and push her on the street, run into the woods. Ruth led her friend to the square, and then stopped. He'll guide you from here. Philip Moore emerged from the shadows. He raised his hands in a friendly manner, greeting her like an old friend. No, I'm definitely not going to him willingly. Audrey rushed aside, but she ran no more than 30 feet. He was faster. Where do you think you're going? Moore came a little closer. His smile was oily. It's so gratifying that I will be the one to help complete the ritual. It'll be my name that the beast inscribes into the history of the new world. Pounding of her heart drowned out his words, but Audrey was driven by sheer animal fear. She didn't even try to understand what he was saying. One more step and I'll scream. Oh, I'm counting on it. But save your voice for the beginning of the ceremony. When I pick up the knife, you'll need it. An old man looked out the house across the street. When Audrey saw him, she took a deep breath and screamed at the top of her lungs. Call the police! There's an escaped criminal! The man's eyes darted around in fear and stopped on Moore. Get in the house! The old man slammed the door shut and disappeared. Is Moore in charge here? The man's voice was nothing like the one Audrey had heard in the club. There was no uncertainty or submissiveness in it. It was firm and threatening. Fight or flight? Fight. Audrey picked up a stone from the ground. She hurled it at Moore with all of her might. He dodged it gracefully, responding with only a hysterical laughter. To throw stones at someone, Audrey, you must first be without sin. Audrey ignored him. She grabbed the next stone and raised her hand menacingly. Don't you dare come any closer. Oh, I'm coming. Don't miss the moment. It only took Moore a couple of seconds to grab his victim. Gotcha! Audrey knew exactly what awaited her. She clenched her jaw. I'd rather die by trying to escape here than by being tortured. Audrey waited for the right moment, then she stomped on Moore's foot as hard as she could. Moore's grip loosened, allowing her to break free and bolt away. I could chase you forever, but we're needed somewhere else. Audrey managed to reach a small house before Moore displayed his agility again. In one leap, he was right beside her. She clung to a dirty windowsill, trying to reach for the window, to knock on it, to break it, whatever she could. This time the man didn't hesitate. Audrey felt a heavy hand on her head and saw the dirty wall coming fast towards her face, and then everything faded. Wake up, sleepyhead. The gentle voice enveloped her in warmth, making her reluctant to open her eyes. Let me ask her again. Wake up! The voice distorted, becoming louder and more demanding. Wake up, you brat, or you'll miss all the fun! Oh, this looks like a warm and cozy and friendly environment. Boy, I wonder who gets invited to these. Audrey opened her eyes and immediately squeezed them shut again. The icy floor burned her skin, even through her thick fabric. Her body felt stiff. She had a splitting headache. How did I get myself into this mess? The room had been thrown, or grown into looked like a church, but it was clearly not being used for its intended purpose. Bastards, untie me and let's talk man to man. Ah, shit, he's here too. A familiar voice made her look up towards the light. Damn, there you are, Harry. Audrey had no time to feel guilty about finding him here. Her conscience was lost in a whirlwind of much stronger emotions at the moment. Harry was tied like cattle by the arms and neck. He stood in the center of the symbol drawn in red paint on the ground. Or blood. Are you awake? Wonderful. Moore picked her up by the scruff of her neck like a kitten. He placed her on her feet next to him. Her legs felt like jelly and she was dizzy. It's a hell of a punch he gave me. Franz walked next to Harry with a knife. Let the blood boil in his veins. Let the sea be troubled and wash away all the lies in your path, O Great One. Never again shall it be calm. Franz accompanied each sentence with long, deep cuts on Harry's body. Dark blood oozed from them. The man seemed to feel no fear. His eyes were clouded with rage, and each cut only seemed to fuel it. Let the fire all consume and greedy never go out. Let heart and flesh burn in it. Long live the new world, built only on the ashes of dried bones of the faithful and unfaithful alike. Hooded figures approached Harry from both sides. They cut the ropes and forced him to kneel before the burning altar. Audrey was distracted by the bleeding, weakened Harry. She wasn't sure when or where Franz had gotten the long piece of iron that glowed red in his hands. He's branding him now, and then it's my turn. Did you know that his father killed his mother? He beat her to death over a glance at another man. Sudden revelation didn't stir much in Audrey at the moment. She was more concerned about herself. Does he want to talk? Keep the conversation going. Almost instinctively, Audrey glanced at Moore. She spoke in a voice that trembled with fear. How is that Harry's fault? Fault? You think this is a punishment? It's an honor! His father's actions prepared the fertile ground, and now Harry is paying for his sins. He's paying not to God, but the whole world. To me, to you, to all of us. I don't understand what you mean. Because you're stupid rat, Audrey. You were born for one purpose, to bleed yourself dry. That's all that's needed from you. Audrey stared intently into the murderer's eyes. She did her best to ignore Harry's prolonged groans. I barely have a chance to distract him by talking. So why don't you do the honors yourself and stand in the circle instead of me? You think no one here would slit their throats for a higher purpose? Unfortunately, the beast needs you and Harry specifically. Just don't get too proud. You have no merit in this. The only thing outstanding about you is your father's blood, filled with his sins. Audrey turned away. She ground her teeth to keep from shaking so much. You have learned some useful information. If you survive, be sure to share it with Mikkel. Harry was curled up as if in prayer. His hand almost touched the floor. The acolytes pulled at his shoulders to expose his chest, but suddenly he straightened up on his own. He used something to slash the man standing in front of him to his shin, then jumped to his feet. He knocked out the person standing to his left with a precise blow, then grabbed the wounded man and held a blade to his throat. Don't come any closer. He managed to sneak in a weapon? Did he prepare for this? Harry staggered like a drunk from the loss of blood. He pressed the acolyte against him with his last ounce of strength. I'm leaving with him. Franz lowered the glowing iron and shrugged. Go. Judging by his carefree tone, Franz didn't believe in Harry's chances of getting out. And Audrey is coming with me. I don't think so. Harry, please contact the people at Astrea. Call them as soon as you get a chance. Harry nodded and walked back towards the exit, his gaze fixed on the frozen acolytes. The two wounded men disappeared into the darkness of the archway, leaving trails of blood behind them. He can call for help if he doesn't die of blood loss first. Managed to convince Harry to prepare for the attack. Now he has a chance to survive. Well, let's not stop Harry from drenching our church with his blood. We'll pick him up later. Several figures left the hall, slowly following the boxer. It's like vultures waiting for a corpse. You, Audrey, will have to enter the circle out of turn. Moore wrapped his fingers around Audrey's delicate neck and dragged her forward. Her feet slipped into the scarlet puddles, but the man's iron grip kept her from falling. Moore pushed her to her knees. He crouched beside her and drew a thin, elegant dagger. I can't die like this. Spit in his face, screw it. Burn in hell, Moore. Still smiling, the man wiped his face with the back of his hand. I'll gladly meet you there again and continue our games. They didn't bother to tie her up like Harry. Franz stood beside her, and Moore. He gently ran his hand over the head of his new victim. Audrey shook her head to dislodge his hand. She almost growled. Don't touch me. Franz ignored her words as if she were not a human but an animal, and he spoke. Compel. Command, O Great One. Let the world kneel before you, and those who do not submit to you shall become dust beneath your feet. Words were clearly different from the ones Franz had spoken when he had cut Harry, but Audrey didn't listen any further. As soon as the knife touched her cheek, all words lost meaning. The only feeling left in the world was pain. The acolytes held her down on her knees. They gripped her hands tightly, pulled them to the side to give more room to work. Come to us. Sit at our table, taste our flesh, drink our blood. Blood oozed from the small cuts, mixing with the blood Harry had left behind. Moore made no attempt to hide his pleasure. He genuinely enjoyed the process, wielding the dagger like a paintbrush. The blade went deep into her wrist and slowly rose up her forearm, slicing through the veins. She moaned in pain, trembling, and then lost all feeling in her right arm. God. Audrey was both mentally and physically exhausted. She looked around the hall with a hazy gaze. She wanted more than anything to be somewhere else for a moment away from here. At least not to die here. Not surrounded by these monsters to whom I am nothing but a piece of meat. This one's a tough one. But I'm gonna go with David. I like Cassiel, don't get me wrong. Phil's nice. Like, everyone, one of them is really nice, right? Don't get me wrong. But yeah, we'll explain at the end of the video. Audrey mentally sat down at the bar, reached out her blood-stained hand. Without asking anything, David placed a glass of whiskey in front of her. Her fingers would not obey, her severed nerves preventing her gripping the glass firmly. David helped her, brought the glass to her parched lips. I'll kill them all, little witch. Just wait for us. Please. As you face death, you think of David. This is more important than any confession. Her consciousness slipped away with the blood that poured from her. This is all so stupid. Franz approached the altar and prepared the metal for branding. Her heart, already pounding for what was happening, beat even harder, her tongue dry as sandpaper. Why can't I just pass out? Her head spun harder, blending the background and acolytes into a blurry mess. Only Moore's bloodthirsty eyes flickered in front of her face, remained clear. His final incision to her neck seemed fatal. The world around her finally began to fall into darkness. But through the encroaching salvation of darkness, light unexpectedly broke through. Audrey blinked, stared up at the source of the strange glow on the ceiling. Path of faith. Is that God? Has he come to take me away? Audrey wanted to reach out to the light, but her mutilated limbs were unresponsive to her brain's impulses. I'm here. But she wasn't the only one who saw the deity. Everyone present suddenly lost interest in their victim and looked upward. Do they see him too? Without the support of the Acolyte's firm grip, Audrey collapsed listlessly on her side. She lay in a pool of blood, hers and Harry's, and stared unblinkingly into the source of light. She prayed for the salvation of her soul and deliverance from her body, the shell that was causing her unbearable pain. Audrey no longer saw what was happening around her. One of the Acolytes recoiled, but most of them froze and looked at each other in fear. No one understood what was happening until Moore finally spoke. The beast, he has come to us! You're gonna find out that's a beast, alright. It's not the beast you're expecting. Everyone in the hall simultaneously fell to their knees and raised their hands to the ceiling. We have been waiting for you, waiting so long. We have been preparing your new kingdom for your arrival. Dirty, spineless creatures. A familiar voice brought Audrey back to reality. This is... Your place is in the darkness you so eagerly seek. Audrey stared in disbelief at Raphael, who hovered high above them all. His outstretched hand trembled. He was shaking all over with barely contained rage. Audrey could have sworn that amidst the white light she could see wings behind his back. You look upon the light you have refused for the last time and live in darkness. Oh my god, could it be any blinding lighter? The glow around Raphael tensed and pulsed at the tips of his fingers. The Acolytes realized that it wasn't their forgiving God who had appeared to them. They held out their arms more forcefully. They wailed. Now real prayers rang out within the walls of the church. It turned out that the heretics knew them after all, but Raphael didn't hear them. Let the hell you seek come to you. The radiance flickered one last time, then burst like a bubble, flooding the entire church. Audrey squinted, drowning in the screams and pleas that filled the room. It felt like she was screaming too, but it all merged in a catacomb. Audrey! The voice thundered in her head, forcing her to come to her senses. Burn, baby, burn! Disco Inferno! Audrey opened her eyes. She felt an unbearable heat. The light had turned into red flames that engulfed the church. The Acolytes cried, screamed as they tried to escape the fire, but they couldn't find a way out. Aha! Eat a bag of deox. Yeah, I don't care about you. I don't care about any of you. Burn. Oh, you especially, you piece of shit. The eyes of the people leaked out, their faces adorned with terrible burns. In a single second, the room turned into a veritable hell on earth. People with empty eye sockets stumbled over each other. They're all blinded. Audrey whimpered softly in horror. She closed her eyes again and tried to cover her eyes, but she couldn't. Her sense of reason refused to comprehend what was happening. It slowly drifted away along with the remnants of blood that still seeped from her wounds. Finally, just as she was about to lose her sanity, her mind had mercy on her and allowed her to sink into darkness. Leaving the burning village and inhabitants behind, Raphael ascended into the sky. He held Audrey close to him. Just don't die, do you hear me? We'll be home soon. Bro, 5 stars. 5 stars. 5 damn stars. I have no comment on that. 3 faith, 2 skepticism, 3 reputation. Let's get them diamonds. First and foremost, there's a season 2. It's already out. So anyway, I got work to do. Yeah, if you did enjoy the work that I do, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. I really try and put as much as I can into this video. Let me know if you really did enjoy the voices that I do and everything that I add to these videos. Besides, normal reading, which, again, so far I'm literally the only person on the platform. So 80 million other content creators that literally will read this stuff. Let alone I'm the only person, again, that reads, meaning out loud, voicing, narrating, anything. I get there's other channels that just do tapping and they upload videos, and that's their thing and that's their shtick, that's fine. But I'm just saying, I put a lot of effort in this stuff, and I give my all. And to sit here and to read, it's lengthy and intensive, and again, I give 110% every time I do these, and especially, I gotta say, I give probably a little bit more with this app. I love the stories. There's not been a single story that I have read on this app yet that I've been like, I don't like it. It's cringe. It's crappy. I have actually genuinely enjoyed sitting down, and I gotta say, this finale for season 1 really, really made me go, yes, I love this app. So I'm going to try and do some catching up, do some chapters. I got a lot of other things going on. There's personal health and things like that, and I do have to, deal with that. But I'm going to aim to do at least one episode, like a day, right? So literally 7 days a week. That's 7 episodes minimum that I'm going to be doing. Especially, with updates and everything. A lot of people in their complaints is this app doesn't do a bunch of, like, releases, right? They're not like other apps that do, like, weekly releases. And I'm fine with that, because when they do a release, I mean, you guys need to realize this. When they do a release, they release, like, a shit ton. So Astrea has already had, episode 9 and 10, and then season 2 come out. And that was just with one book, right? So let's just say 3 chapters for that one book. And there's like a dozen, if not more, books right now. That's a lot of work. I mean, you look at choices and you get like 2 chapters on a Wednesday and 2 to 3 on a Friday. That's 5. Do it over the course of like 4 weeks, right? That's 20. You've already been outpaced by this app. And the chapters also are more detailed, more unique art, more unique sounds, music and everything. I gotta say, I really enjoy this. So as for this specific chapter, this finale, I'm gonna say it, I did not expect that to happen. I did not in the least expect that to happen. I thought, I'm gonna be real with you, I thought Cassiel would maybe break in, the guys from, the agency would be like, hoorah, we're here to save you, like A-team, right? And there'd be a fight break out, and there'd be this and that, and the whole 9 yards. I thought something like that would happen. I did not expect Raphael to, I guess, be an angel. And to literally come save you. So, like, I'm hoping that Harry made it out, right? I mean, he's a tough guy. He works out and everything else. And typically those types of people are a lot more prone to surviving things like this, right? Versus someone who's very weak, lethargic, doesn't work out, doesn't push, doesn't min-max, right? Like, working out really helps your limbs and everything else need less blood and less oxygen, so he most likely got out, and I hope he survived. And clearly we already did a choice where, he was able to protect himself and actually escape. So again, I'm hoping he survived, and we'll find out in chapter 1, or may I say episode 1, of season 2. But aside from that, I really, really did enjoy this. I was even thinking, okay, well, maybe, because Harry, got captured and everything else, maybe Cassio would be hot on the trail and burst in there and everything like that. I'm pleasantly surprised. He's the only person that otherwise I would have not suspected was Mikhail. He's been a huge mystery this entire time. That would be the only other person that I did not expect this to happen with. So Raphael, out of all of them, yeah, no, especially him. Man, oh man, oh man. So as you see there, it says in episode 1 of season 2, it's time to get to know each other a little better. So yeah, we'll get to do that. Again, hopefully you did enjoy it. Let me know in the comments. Otherwise, let me see. I remember my one comment here. Actually, no, I don't. I just remember I was going to mention something at the end of the video, and then I completely and utterly lost my train of thought. No, okay, I'm just going to say this. My vibe radar, right? I've been through a lot of shit in my life. It was going off. The minute Ruth and the tree, and you heard my commentary, I'm like, oh, no, don't do this. I gotta say, like, round of applause. I mean, this is something that could be actually a motion film that would be really, really amazing. And, I mean, hell, let's put it this way. Twilight became a damn movie franchise. Come on now. And a bunch of books and everything. So, things like this really do deserve possibly the light of day. It really, I mean, I have to say, let's see what season 2 has in store, especially for that comment. But I gotta say, really well done for season 1. I enjoyed it. Most of the time, I gave it 4 stars, at the lowest, but 5 stars usually, because I really enjoyed it. So, yeah, no, I forget my comment. I remember, yeah, we'll talk about it at the end of the video. I got just blown away by what happened. It just, my whole train of thought about that, my little, no, it's gone. So, if someone happens to remember, and you've tuned in to the end of the video, remind me so maybe I can address it in the comments. But otherwise, yeah, no, I really enjoyed this. So, hopefully you did as well. Catch you all later. Peace out.